The dining room is so quiet I can hear the tick of the clock over the stove when my brother says the words that flip my whole world upside down. "I treated them," Chase announces, leaning back in his chair like a king. "All expenses paid ski trip. I covered everything." My mom is nodding, my dad looks proud, and my relatives around the table murmur things like, "So generous," and "You're such a good son." I set my coffee cup down, slide a folder onto the table, and say, "That's interesting, Chase. Because according to these statements, you didn't pay for that trip." "We both did. And you didn't invite me." His smirk disappears. "What is this?" he snaps, reaching for the papers, but my dad's hand gets there first. "There's a joint account with both our names on it," I say, steady now. "Mom and Dad's family safety fund. You drained almost all of it for your little core family vacation. And you told the credit union I wasn't interested in family trips." My mother's face goes from confused to horrified as she scans the page. But to understand how we got here, how my own brother used my name to freeze me out of a Christmas I'll never get back, I need to start at the beginning. Hey everyone, I'm Emily, and this is the story of how my golden boy brother tried to buy himself the perfect family Christmas with money that wasn't just his, and how I quietly froze his travel fund instead. If you're new here, these are real-style stories about family betrayal and the justice that comes after. If you've ever been the responsible one, the family nurse, the default caregiver while someone else gets all the praise, this one will probably hit a nerve. If this story resonates with you, I'd appreciate your support, a like, a comment, or just being part of this community for more stories like this. And if you've got your own experience with a golden child in the family, share it in the comments. Those stories matter. Now, let's get into it. My name is Emily Carter. I'm 29 years old, a registered nurse in Denver, Colorado. I work at a big hospital near downtown on the Med-Surg floor, making around $76,000 a year before overtime. I rent a small one-bedroom near Capitol Hill with creaky floors, an ancient gas stove, and a view of an alley full of trash cans instead of mountains. I'm single, no kids, and I'm the kind of person who lives by lists. Color-coded calendars, reminder alarms, sticky notes on the fridge. If someone in my life has a follow-up appointment, prescription refill, or school recital, there's a 90% chance I've written it down somewhere and rearranged my life to be there. My older brother, Chase, is 3 years ahead of me. Chase Carter, 32, software sales executive, makes roughly $165,000 a year plus bonuses. He lives in a sleek townhome in Lodo with gray walls, stainless steel everything, and a rooftop deck where he hosts networking mixers that look suspiciously like excuse to show off parties. That townhome cost around $810,000, and our parents helped with the down payment. He drives a newer BMW, posts boomerangs from fancy bars, and uses phrases like "work hard," "play hard," and "I earned this" a lot. Our parents still live in the same comfortable house in the suburbs that they bought when we were kids, worth somewhere around $480,000 now. My mom taught middle school for decades. My dad worked in insurance. Solid, practical people. But somewhere along the line, they decided Chase was the star, and I was the support staff. When I was 12, Chase got a snowboard-themed birthday party up in the mountains. They rented a cabin, booked lessons, invited half his grade. There were photos of him holding a brand new board, goggles on his head, grins stretched across his face. 2 months later, my birthday party was a sheet cake in our kitchen. Mom still had balloons left over from one of her students' parties, and the icing on the cake said, "Happy birthday, Emily," because they'd spelled my name wrong at the grocery store and nobody bothered to fix it. I remember Chase saying, "Mouth full of frosting, at least you got cake," and my mom laughing like it was a joke. When Chase graduated from college, my parents flew us all to a beach resort. There were speeches, toasts, matching t-shirts that said, "Proud of our grad." My aunt cried. They surprised him with a watch. When I finished nursing school years later, we had a rushed dinner at a chain restaurant between Chase's flights for a work trip. He spent half the meal checking his phone. My mom said, "We'll do something bigger another time," but another time never came. Chase picked up the check, waved his card, and told everyone, "I got this," like he'd just rescued us from financial ruin. Then, one winter not that long ago, my dad had a heart scare. Nothing catastrophic, thank God, but serious enough to need tests, cardiology appointments, medication adjustments. I traded shifts, picked up nights, and mapped out all his appointments on a spreadsheet. I drove him to every single one. Chase sent a DoorDash gift card and paid one insurance premium when my parents got confused about a bill. For the next few months, he told anyone who would listen that he was covering medical bills for our parents. "I'm really stepping up," he said one evening at my parents' kitchen table while I sorted Dad's pill organizer. I told them not to stress about the money. My mom patted his hand, eyes shiny. "You're such a blessing, Chase." I clicked a pill bottle shut a little harder than necessary. I was the one sitting in waiting rooms and reading lab results, but somehow, he was the hero. Fast forward to last Christmas. The leaves had just fully dropped when my mom started talking about doing something special this year. She kept saying how she wanted one big family memory, while she and Dad were still healthy enough to enjoy it. A few weeks later, Chase created a group text titled Core Family Christmas. The ding woke me up between shifts. He wrote, "So I found this insane Breckenridge package. Luxury condos, lift tickets, spa credit, the works. I'm thinking we do it right this year." Pictures followed, snow-covered peaks, modern condos with floor-to-ceiling windows, people in fluffy robes holding champagne. I typed, "Wow, that looks amazing." And then had to go into a patient's room. By the time I checked my phone again, the conversation had moved on without me. My mom, "This looks incredible, honey." My dad, "You've worked so hard, you deserve this." Chase, "You guys raised me. Let me do this for you." It was a lot of you, not you all. But I told myself I was overthinking. The official kickoff to the holiday was at my parents' house on Christmas Eve. The place was packed, relatives in every corner, kids running down the hallway, the smell of ham and cinnamon and pine. I showed up with 2 homemade dishes balanced on my arms, my cheeks numb from the cold. As I walked in, I heard my aunt talking about the trip. "Breckenridge. That's fancy. How long are you all going for?" I smiled, ready to finally hear details. Chase stood near the fireplace, a glass of red wine in his hand, his girlfriend perched next to him in a brand new ski jacket, like she'd already mentally moved into the resort. "So," he said loudly, clinking his glass with a knife. "For this year's Christmas trip, it's just me, Mom, Dad, and Kara. Core family. We're doing a week-long package, top-tier everything." People started clapping. My mom laughed, hand over her heart. "He's taking care of us this year," she said. I shifted the dishes in my arms and moved closer. When there was a lull, I leaned toward Chase and whispered, "I thought we were all going. Did you already book everything?" He didn't lower his voice. "You're a nurse, Em," he said, loud enough for the people around us to hear. "You can't just jet off. Besides, I'm paying for most of it. We can't afford tagalongs." The word tagalongs landed like a slap. Conversation dipped around us. One of my cousins looked at his shoes. Another sipped her drink like she wished she could dissolve into it. I forced a smile. "I never said I expected you to pay for me. I just thought." My mom cut in with a weak laugh. "Sweetie, the logistics with your schedule. We didn't want you to be stressed." An aunt, trying to fill the silence, asked, "So where will you be spending Christmas, Emily?" Before I could answer, Chase shrugged. "She'll be fine. She works holidays anyway." He raised his glass again. "To Mom and Dad. They deserve this." Everyone said cheers. Nobody met my eyes. I carried my dishes into the kitchen, set them down, and focused on arranging them so I didn't cry. I told myself it was just one trip. I reminded myself I'd picked this career. Patients needed care on holidays. But the humiliation settled deep in my chest and stayed there. A few days after that dinner, on a Tuesday morning, I was in the hospital break room inhaling bad coffee when my phone buzzed. It was my friend Devin. She's worked at the credit union my parents use for years. Her text said, "Hey, can you call me on your break? Need to check something weird." Like, really weird. Devin isn't dramatic. If she says really weird, it's serious. I called her as soon as I had a proper lunch break, sitting in my car in the parking garage, engine off, the winter air fogging up the windows. She picked up on the first ring. Are you alone? Yeah, I said, my stomach dropping. What's going on? So, she started carefully. Your parents came in months back and opened a joint travel and emergency account. They put in around $30,000 from some old policy payout. The account is under your parents' names, plus you and Chase as joint owners. That rang a bell. I blinked. They mentioned a safety fund once, but I thought it was just something they were doing for themselves. Devin sighed. Well, according to the notes, they said, we want something for family emergencies and maybe a big trip someday. Both kids on it just in case. That's what the banker wrote. My heart started pounding. Okay. Last week, she continued, Chase came in. He withdrew almost the entire balance, like just left a few thousand. Labeled the withdrawal, Christmas family trip. And when the banker asked if you were aware, he said, and this is verbatim, Emily isn't interested in family vacations. She told me to handle it. The car seemed to shrink around me. He used a joint account with my name on it, I said slowly, to pay for a trip I was explicitly excluded from. And he told you I wasn't interested. Devin said, I'm not supposed to be telling you this, but it didn't sit right with me. That's why I flagged it and texted you. You're a joint owner. You absolutely have a say. I stared at the foggy windshield. The humiliation from Christmas Eve mixed with something new, a cold, clear anger. This wasn't just being left out. This wasn't a scheduling issue or a you'll understand when you make more money situation. This was my brother using my name, my legal access, to fund his perfect little curated family vacation and then acting like I was the inconvenient outsider. Enough. I'd spent years being the responsible one, the understanding one, the nurse, the scheduler, the one who stepped aside. I wasn't stepping aside this time. What can I do? I asked. Devin couldn't give me legal advice, but she told me what she could, that my name was on the account, that there were options, and that she'd document everything properly on their end. She also suggested, gently, maybe talk to a lawyer. Like, yesterday. So that's what I did. Over the next week, I picked up extra shifts, cashed out a small savings account I'd been building for a future vacation, and scraped together a $15,000 retainer to meet with a consumer law attorney downtown. Her name was Marissa, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s whose office walls were lined with framed documents and an entire shelf of thick banking law books. She listened as I laid everything out: the core family ski trip, the Christmas Eve humiliation, Devin's call, the travel and emergency account, the withdrawal labeled Christmas family trip. I slid the account printouts Devin had helped me get, old text messages from my parents where they'd mentioned the safety fund, and screenshots from the group chat across her desk. One of the texts from my mom, sent months earlier, read, "We opened a little family safety fund today. Both you and Chase are on it, just in case anything ever happens or we all want to do something special together. You're both covered." Marissa tapped that message with her pen. "Here's the thing," she said. "You are a joint owner. That means you had equal rights to that money. Now, technically, any joint owner can withdraw funds. But context matters. This was presented to you as a family safety fund. Your brother's representation to the credit union that you weren't interested in family vacations and told him to handle it could be considered misrepresentation, especially given that he used it to exclude you. So, what can we actually do?" I asked. "I don't want my parents in trouble. I'm not okay with this." "We're not going after your parents," she said firmly. "We're going to document what happened, protect your interest in what's left, and create leverage. A formal complaint to the credit union, plus a letter to your parents, should make it very clear this can't happen again and that Chase may need to repay your share." We spent the next hour going through details. Marissa drafted a formal complaint to the credit union, outlining the original purpose of the account as a travel and emergency or family safety fund, the joint ownership, including my name, the fact that nearly the entire balance had been used for a trip that I was explicitly told I was not part of, the banker's note about Chase saying I wasn't interested, contrary to reality. She requested that the credit union restrict further withdrawals pending review, acknowledge in writing that I was a joint owner with equal rights. Note potential misrepresentation by Chase if they agreed it occurred. Then she drafted a letter to my parents. It wasn't angry. It was clinical, almost painfully polite. It laid out the facts, that they had established a joint family fund with both their children, that Chase had used almost all of it for a vacation I was excluded from, and that I had taken steps to protect what remained. It also said that any future joint funds involving both siblings would need clear, written rules to avoid further misunderstandings or potential legal disputes. At Marissa's suggestion, I went to the credit union in person a few days later. I moved the remaining few $1,000s into a new account in my name only. I removed Chase's name and revoked any joint access he had to that money. The credit union manager, looking slightly nervous, confirmed in writing that I was within my rights as a joint owner to do so. By the time Chase and my parents were headed off to their luxury condos and lift tickets, the family safety fund he'd treated like his personal travel wallet was under a very bright spotlight. I decided that if my brother wanted to brag about being the one who took care of our parents, he was going to have to do it with his own money next time, or face the consequences. And those consequences arrived at New Year's brunch. 2 weeks after the ski trip, my parents invited a few relatives over for a small New Year's brunch. Just bagels, coffee, some leftover holiday decorations still clinging to the walls. They got back from Breckenridge the day before, glowing and full of stories. My social media feed had been full of their pictures all week, my parents in matching ski jackets, Chase and his girlfriend in the hot tub, captions like, "Best Christmas ever" and "Family is everything." I'd muted the group chat and spent my holiday picking up shifts, watching the snow from hospital windows, and spending one quiet evening opening a single present for myself. A fluffy blanket and a promise that I would never let myself be treated like an afterthought again. That morning, I dressed in a simple sweater and jeans, put the folder Marissa had prepared into my tote bag, and drove to my parents' house. The atmosphere was cozy when I walked in. Soft music, the smell of coffee and cinnamon rolls, my dad in a sweater vest retelling some ski story for the third time. My mom hugged me a little too long, like she was trying to make up for something without naming it. Chase was at the head of the table, of course, holding court. And then he was saying as I sat down, I told the concierge, "These two deserve the best view you've got. We literally woke up to the mountains every morning." My aunt sighed. "You really outdid yourself, Chase." He grinned, clearly thriving off the praise. "They've done so much for us. Covering the whole trip was the least I could do." I let him talk. Let him pile it on. He talked about how much it cost. "It was like 24 grand all in," he said, make-believe modest. "But you can't put a price on family time, right?" He had no idea that every dollar had already been calculated by the credit union, by my lawyer, by me. When there was a natural pause, I set my coffee down and spoke calmly. "Actually, Chase," I said, my voice carrying more than I expected, "you didn't cover the whole trip." His head snapped toward me. "Excuse me." I reached into my bag, pulled out the folder, and placed it in the center of the table. "What's this?" my dad asked, already reaching for it. "Those are the statements from the travel and emergency account," I said. "The one Mom and Dad opened months ago. The family safety fund with both our names on it. Also known as the account you drained for your core family ski trip." The room went very still. My mom's hand hovered over the folder before she opened it. She scanned the first page, her eyes moving faster, then slower. My dad leaned in, reading over her shoulder. There it was, in black and white. The initial $30,000 deposit. The account owners, my parents, Chase Carter and Emily Carter. The large withdrawal, labeled Christmas Family Trip, nearly wiping it out. "And this," I said, sliding out another document, "is from the credit union's internal notes, where you told the banker I wasn't interested in family vacations and had told you to handle it." My aunt sucked in a breath. My cousin's fork paused halfway to her mouth. Chase's face went from amusement to irritation to something close to panic. "That's taken out of context," he said quickly. "I meant you're always working. You don't even like skiing." I held his gaze. "You stood in Mom's living room and called me a tag-along in front of everyone. And now I find out you used a joint account with my name on it to pay for that trip." Money our parents told me was a safety fund for both of us. My mom looked up, eyes wide and glassy. We didn't realize you were using that account for the trip, Chase. We thought you were paying from your bonus. Of course I used that account, he snapped. That's what it was for. Family things. This was a family trip. I let that hang in the air for a second. Was it? I asked quietly. Because from where I'm sitting, you used money attached to my name to fund a vacation you went out of your way to tell everyone I didn't belong on. My dad cleared his throat. Chase, is this true? Did you tell the credit union she wasn't interested? Chase's bravado slipped a little. I said she's always busy with work. I didn't think it was a big deal which account I used. I pulled out the last document, a letter on Marissa's letterhead. This, I said, is from my attorney. We've already filed a formal complaint with the credit union. They're reviewing the withdrawals. I've moved the remaining balance into an account in my name, and Chase no longer has access to it. My mom's head whipped toward me. Attorney? The words seemed to rattle her, but there was no anger in it. Just shock. I didn't want to blindside you, I said. The letter explains everything. It also says that any future joint funds involving both of us will need written rules, because I am not going through this again. I took a breath. I'm done being the invisible child who organizes your appointments, sits in waiting rooms, and then gets treated like I'm lucky just to be in the kitchen. I'm not going to let someone use my name and our parents' trust to fund a fantasy version of family that doesn't include me. For once in his life, Chase didn't seem to have a comeback ready. He reached for the letter, scanned it, and went pale. His hand actually shook. This says the credit union might require me to repay half, he said, voice cracking. And that there could be consequences if they decide I misrepresented something. That's what happens when you play games with other people's money, I said quietly. My mom put a hand to her mouth. We never meant for this to happen. We just thought having a safety fund with both kids' names would be smart. We didn't know. I know, I said, softer now. This isn't about punishing you and Dad. It's about making sure I'm not erased. Again. Silence settled around the table. Finally, my dad spoke, voice low but firm. Son, he said, I don't care how you spin it. Using that account for a trip you intentionally left your sister out of? That's wrong. You owe her. Chase opened his mouth, closed it, then looked down at the letter again. I'll fix it, he muttered. I'll pay back her half. And the legal fees, I added. $15,000. I wouldn't have needed a lawyer if you'd been honest. He flinched, but didn't argue. Around the table, the relatives who'd clinked their glasses on Christmas Eve suddenly looked like they wanted to be anywhere else. For once, I didn't feel like disappearing. I felt steady. The weeks after that brunch were awkward, to put it mildly. The credit union responded to Marissa's complaint. They acknowledged my joint ownership, confirmed in writing that the withdrawal had been inconsistent with the stated purpose of the account, based on their notes, and strongly recommended that Chase and I come to a private reimbursement agreement to avoid further escalation. Translation: they weren't going to drag him into court themselves, but they were absolutely willing to document that he'd done something shady if it came to that. Marissa helped me draft one final document, a simple repayment agreement. It outlined the total amount withdrawn for the trip, half of that amount as my share, the $15,000 legal retainer, a payment schedule over the next year. Chase came to Marissa's office with his jaw tight and his shoulders tense. He signed it. He had to cancel a planned guy's trip, downgrade his car lease when it was up, and skip a couple of big weekends in the mountains to make the payments. I know, because his social media turned from work hard, play hard, to more humble content like take out on the couch for a while. Our relatives found out too. Word gets around. The same aunt who'd asked where I'd be spending Christmas pulled me aside one afternoon and whispered, we didn't know about the account. If we had, we would have said something. I'm proud of you, you know, for standing up for yourself. My parents were embarrassed, but something important shifted. My mom started asking, does this work for you, Emily, before scheduling things that involved me. My dad stopped referring to Chase as the one who takes care of us and started saying, you both help us in different ways. I made changes too. I stopped being the default. If my mom asked me to coordinate 3 different appointments in one week, I'd say, I can take you Tuesday, but you'll need to ask Chase about Friday. When she would say, I don't want to bother him, he's so busy, I'd respond, so am I. The first few times, it felt harsh. Then it started to feel healthy. I also did something for myself. Once the first few repayments came in, I took a small portion, not all of it, just enough, and booked a modest trip of my own. Nothing luxurious. Just a few days in a mountain town with Devon, in a little rental with a fireplace and a view. We spent one evening sitting on the balcony, wrapped in blankets, watching the snow fall. No one called me a tag-along. No one acted like they were doing me a favor by including me. I'm glad you finally spent some of that family safety fund on yourself, Devon joked, sipping hot chocolate. I smiled. Feels like the first time it's actually being used safely. Chase and I are not close now. We're polite at family gatherings, but there's a distance he can't charm his way through. Every time he starts talking about how much something cost, I catch my dad glancing at me with an expression that says, we remember. The account my parents once called the Family Safety Fund is now in my name alone. They opened a separate one for themselves, with legal clarity this time. No more surprises. No more quiet erasures. I'm still the one who remembers their medication lists, but they don't take that for granted anymore. And I'm not afraid to say no when I'm tired or when I need to take care of myself. The best part? The next holiday season, my mom asked, if we ever do a big trip again, what would work for you, schedule-wise? And I could tell she meant it. Sometimes the most satisfying revenge isn't screaming or slamming doors. It's paperwork. It's receipts. It's calmly putting the truth in the middle of the table and refusing to back down. It's reminding people that you're not a tag-along. You're a co-owner. That's my story, how my brother tried to use our parents' trust and my name to buy the perfect Christmas without me, and how I froze his travel fund instead. If this made you think of your own family, golden child, or a time someone treated you like you were lucky to get crumbs from something you helped pay for, you're not alone. Document everything, protect yourself, and don't be afraid to get legal advice. You're not powerless, even if they've made you feel that way for years. If you found this story helpful or validating, a like would mean a lot, and feel free to join this community for more stories about family, money, and quiet justice. Have you ever dealt with a sibling or relative using joint money in a shady way, or excluding you from something you helped fund? Share it in the comments. Those stories can help other people see they're not crazy. Thanks for listening.